Good morning, everyone. I'm Stuart Nachbar, founder of Educated Quest. With me this morning is Joy Mills. Joy is from Charlotte, North Carolina, and she is a rising junior and a political science major at Brown University. Joy, I know through her parents. They've been friends of mine for over 30 years. God, I feel old. But I first met Joy when she was in middle school, and she was always very bright, always very ambitious, also always very athletic. And she and I are gonna talk a little bit about Brown and about the experience. We know I've always gotten contacts with people who want to know what life is like at different Ivy League campuses. And Joy agreed to spend a little time with me. So Joy, thank you for joining me this morning.
Of course, thank you for having me.
What what appealed to you most about Brown and that led you to apply? Because it's a lot of work to apply to an Ivy League school.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely knew that I wanted to apply to one Ivy League. Um, I wanted to, I'm kind of the person that wanted to see if I could do it. But what really happened was that I wanted to go into college as an English major, and I looked up the best colleges for English majors in the country. Brown came up. I did some research, and it just became my favorite Ivy League. And I was like, if I'm going to apply to one, it's got to be Brown. It has so many different opportunities available. And I loved just looking at the kind of people that went there. And I loved looking at the curriculum. Just very, just very briefly learning about the open curriculum in the beginning. That interested me a lot, and the more I learned about it, the more excited I got about applying to Brown. So I knew I had to.
Joy, could you tell us a little more about the open curriculum?
Yes.
How
So
exactly does it work for someone walking into Brown?
the open curriculum has been a part of Brown since 1969. Um, Basically, what it means is that there are no general education requirements. So at most schools, you come in as a freshman, and usually for freshman and sophomore year, you have to take, your history, science, math, English, like all of those basic things. But at Brown, you don't have to do that. You can literally take whatever you want from the minute you come in to when you leave. You do have to pick a concentration. So the only requirements that you have are the ones for whatever concentration you pick. So I took a math class in my freshman fall because I thought I wanted to. Has nothing to do with my concentration. Realized that I didn't like it, and so I will never take a math class again. And that is an option for me because I go to Brown.
So when you were in high school, what was your least favorite subject?
Math. No, okay. So it's weird that I took it. Okay, so I was okay at math, and then senior year, I took honors calculus. I did well, so I went into Brown. I was like, okay, I'll just take calculus 2, and then that'll be it. But Calc 2 in college was really hard, so I decided that was that. I made it through. Oh, another thing about the open curriculum is that you can take any amount of classes, pass, fail.
Oh,
And the reasoning behind that is that you can take any class, like maybe it's not part of your concentration requirement, or like it's just something you never thought about. You can take it pass fail to kind of like relieve the stress of getting a perfect grade, and it's more about learning. So I took that math class pass fail because I knew that it wasn't a part of my actual end goal, but I wanted to take it because I thought, it would be just something to cap off the calculus thing. And so I took a pass fail. Luckily, it all worked out, but I was very grateful that I had that option, because otherwise, um, things like that, maybe you don't have to worry about like a bad grade tanking your GPA because you just take a pass fail.
what was Brown your absolute first choice when you went into the college admissions process?
Um, that's a good question because I didn't apply early decision. So for anybody that doesn't know, early decision is a binding application. It's a binding application. So you can only apply to one school early decision. And if you get in, you're legally, contractually obligated to go there. But I didn't apply to Brown ED because I did want other options. I wasn't 100% sure by the time I applied. I was looking at other colleges. Carleton College in Minnesota was a really close second. I was looking at small liberal arts colleges. And yeah, so Brown was definitely a top choice, but I still wanted to leave myself other options because there were other schools that I liked as well.
And you mentioned Carleton. Were there any other schools that you considered quite closely?
My mother went to Drew, and they kind of rolled out the red carpet for me during the college admissions process. So that was another close option, close third, I guess you could say. They had had scholarships available, but the only thing about Drew was that I knew that if I went there, I would do really well. The academics were not as rigorous as Brown, so I knew I would do really well, but it wouldn't be as challenging. And so I wanted to go to a place where I would be academically challenged to, the best of my abilities, and also be around people that were at a similar caliber.
Have you found Brown lives up to those expectations so far?
Yes, everyone at Brown is so talented. I am in shock at the people that I meet. Usually when I talk to people, I can figure out how they got into Brown because I'm talking to them and I'm just like, wow, you're amazing in this way or that way. And I can totally see why you're here. And I'm just proud to be in the same position that they are. We all got here, and it's very clear that we all are hard workers. It's a lot less elitist than the other Ivy Leagues. People aren't like, oh, my parents went here and everyone's so rich. It's very much more of we worked hard to get here and we are so proud of it. And it's more of a collaborative environment where people support each other and are proud of each other.
You entered Brown as an English major, or thinking about English. You're in political science now. What led you to change your mind? Was it courses you took? Was it other experiences you had?
Yeah, so my first semester, I took a creative nonfiction class. My goal coming into college was always to be a lawyer. I've wanted to be a lawyer since senior year of high school, and so I thought that English was a broad enough major for me to get good writing skills, and I would still be able to go to law school. But then I realized that even the nonfiction track of the English concentration at Brown wasn't exactly what I was looking for. So I looked at the political science requirements and I realized that it was everything, all the classes that were required I loved and would want to take anyway. So in second semester, I took Intro to the American Political Process with Wendy Schiller, who is amazing. And I was like, okay, this is what I want to do.
So how many, over the course of your first 2 years, how many courses in political science have you taken versus the other courses at Brown?
I've actually only taken 3 courses in the political science department so far, because I took one my second semester freshman year, I took one my fall sophomore year, and then I took one this past spring, but I also took a history class that was towards my requirements. It was in the history department, but it was American legal and constitutional history, so it counted towards my political science requirements.
It's interesting. Now, Brown has pre-law advising, I would presume.
Yes.
And have you used it in any way? Have you gone to people who do pre-law advising?
So I signed up for getting all the emails, but I haven't taken advantage of it as much as I probably should. Um, I know the pre-law advisor, like the main guy, his name is George Vasilev, and I know that there's a really strong pre-law community, um, but I don't know, I haven't taken advantage of it as much as I should, and I probably will do so more in going into my latter half of my undergraduate career.
One of the things that people we hear in our field and where we hear people looking at colleges say is, "What's your pre-law major?" When you were talking to people at Brown who teach or work there, did they tell you anything about pre-law or about law school, or did they say, Joy, take my class. This might help you when you go to law school later? Did anyone ever volunteer that, or they pretty much give you the freedom to choose?
They definitely give you the freedom to choose. They even the classes that have law in the name. I took a history of law class in freshman year. Fortunately, it didn't count towards my requirement, but and I took the American Legal and Constitutional class. They aren't saying take this if you want to go to law school. Take it because you're interested in it. And I'm genuinely interested in political science. I'm not necessarily taking it because I think that it's like the right course. You go political science and you go to law school. I genuinely love each political science class that I've taken so far, and I'm excited to do more. So at Brown, it's really about just doing what you're passionate about, and whatever advisor you have, there's so many sources for support and so many resources that you can take advantage of. Whatever you want to do, you can choose your path, and like someone will help you get to your ultimate goal.
Do a lot of people at Brown choose to have more than one major or several minors with their major? Is that something you might do?
So there aren't any minors, they're just concentrations, we call them, which is a major. And more people than I actually expect are taking are double concentrators, or I've even met a couple triple concentrators. That is not something I'm interested in. I thought about double concentrating in political science and theater, um, but I realized it wasn't really going to work with the requirements, just getting all the requirements in for both concentrations. And I realized that political science is really more of my passion, so I decided to stick with that. But people will be doing econ and poli-sci, or computer science and Latin. Um, it's it's not uncommon. It's actually more common than I thought it would be for people to double concentrate. But for me, I'm very sure that I like political science. So that makes things a bit easy for me, because I'm like, okay, I want to do this and I'm going to focus on it.
So you're not going to do like the classical pre-law kinds of things like Latin and philosophy that you might have heard about a century ago. But
Yeah, not necessarily. I can definitely I'm not going to take Latin. I'm not, I don't have any background in that. But of course, yeah, I could take a philosophy class, and I'm taking planning on taking econ next semester. Um, Definitely, Brown gives you the opportunity to take anything you want. And as long as I finish my political science requirements, which I'm on track to do, then anything else is fair game.
now, let's say you were like a biology major or a chemistry major. Could someone technically skip over the introductory bio or chem class and jump into cell biology or molecular chemistry? Or do you still need prerequisites for things like that?
Taking AP classes in high school definitely allows you to get into the higher level classes. Even for example, in Spanish class, I took AP Spanish in senior year, so I was able to skip, like, I went to Spanish 600
Wow.
going into Brown. Um, so yeah, definitely if you take AP Bio, anything like that, you can skip the introductory level classes. And they also have placement tests that you can take as a freshman to just see where you're best fit. So that's definitely an option. But if you're a biology major or a chemistry major, um, it's a lot of work. I know I'm not even a part of it. Just my friends that are in the STEM field. Um, they definitely have a lot more requirements, so there's a little bit less wiggle room for all the electives that you might want to take. Um, but people that are in STEM, they know what they're doing.
So you could take an exam that's given by Brown to go into the next level of a class, even if you never took an AP in high school? Like, let's say you were a native speaker in Spanish, you come from a
Oh,
Spanish speaking country, something like that.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, you could definitely take the placement test to skip out of that. I just used my score from the AP exam to be like, okay, I'm qualified to be in this class, and they take that. Um, I haven't heard of anyone doing that for the science classes, not taking AP,
That's
then
brave.
just going into organic chemistry. But they're the placement tests. I mean, you can take them and see what happens, and they'll tell you, like, the placement test will tell you what class you're best suited for at that time.
Now how did you ease into extracurricular activities outside of class? And which ones are you part of now that you think you'll be part of going forward for your last 2 years?
Yes, I love this question. Extracurriculars at Brown have made my experience. I Oh my gosh, I wouldn't be happy without them. Um, I am a part of the Brown RISD Catholic community. That is the very first group that I really just latched onto. Um, Meeting the priest and the minister during Admitted Students Day was one of the major things that actually cinched my decision to come to Brown, because I am a very devout Catholic. And everyone at my Catholic high school was like, oh my gosh, Brown's so liberal. Like, are you sure you want to go to a secular school? All of this stuff. But when I went to Brown on Admitted Students Day and I met the priest and I realized that there was a Catholic community and it was strong and it was vibrant, I was like, okay, I can do this. Um, and that first year, I got onto the leadership board and I served as the media and communications chair, and I did the weekly newsletter. And I play the flute and the piano for mass on Sundays. I just love it so much. Most of my friends are Catholic, just because I hang out with them all the time. So that's definitely a major part of my experience. I'm also heavily involved in musical theater. I am a performer. I sing, I dance, I act. I've been in at least one production every single semester so far. Some semesters I've been in two productions, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's a hard work. Being in a full-length musical is hard work, like 4-hour rehearsals 6 days a week, and we do it because we love it. Um, I was in Ragtime in this past fall, and I literally met Audra McDonald, who was the star in the original Broadway version of Ragtime.
Wow,
So it's kind of amazing.
that is
um,
kind of amazing, definitely.
I got to perform for Audra McDonald, who, as a musical theater fanatic, that's incredible. For anyone who knows about musical theater, meeting Audra McDonald and performing for her is kind of a big deal. And those are the opportunities you have at Brown because there are so many connections. So I love the theater community. I love the Catholic community. I also recently this year joined the K-pop dancing group and the Brown band. I learned how to play the saxophone. Never knew how to play the saxophone. I know like 3 notes. And then the Brown band taught me how to play the saxophone. And now I'm in the Brown band.
Wow. Now, when you were in the Catholic community, if you're playing the flute and the piano, do you play them in the same piece, or are you a flutist in one piece and a pianist in another?
Yeah, so this year, oh my gosh, it was actually a lot of work. I would play a few songs, whichever ones lended themselves better to whichever instrument. I would play like 3 songs on the piano, 2 songs on the flute. Like I just kind of switched around.
That
It
had to,
was interesting.
but you didn't have to do it within the same song, right? If they were,
No, no.
that would have
Yeah.
been really difficult. That would
I
have been,
just if you want to do something at Brown, you put yourself into that situation and you're going to do it. I really was like, I want to play the piano. They were like about to hire a professional accompanist. I'm like, don't do that. I'm doing it for free, so that's not necessary.
Wow. So you've had a lot of extracurricular opportunity. Obviously, you've had a lot of academic opportunities. What, when you were told you had to go home, what was that like?
Yeah. Okay. That was really rough. So this spring, I so I started it last year, but this spring I was actually directing a musical that I had written, and it was set to be performed on the weekend of March 13th, 14th, 15th. Um, and obviously, it was a dream come true. I wrote a musical, I was directing it, it was going to be put on stage. And then March 12th, we were told everything was canceled and we had to go home. So that hit hard. Luckily, that night, all the people involved in it was the mini musical festival. It's an annual festival for student written productions. We just performed it, recorded it, and that was it. Just once, and then we did it and went home.
One
So
take? Just one take?
yeah. Well,
Wow.
we had been practicing it because it was the night before it was
Okay.
supposed to actually open, so we were ready. But there wasn't any like extra audience, so we were able to record it. Now I have that forever. Um, and now we were the lucky ones because I was also in Chicago, but we could not do that because we had just started rehearsals. We barely knew any of the songs. So the people that were supposed to direct Chicago were heartbroken. The the K-pop group, that's the name of it. The K-pop dancing group was supposed to have a performance in April. I was devastated because I was really excited to perform with them. All of these opportunities were just suddenly lost and there was nothing we could do to get them back. And yeah, that that hurt. Like I said, the extracurriculars at Brown are what make the experience for me. So I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It sucked. Um, but I went home and I finished my classes and I did well. I guess I did better than I might have if I were still at school because I had no extracurriculars to take up any of my time. Um, but yeah, everyone was just really sad because we love Brown. We love being there. We love our friends, and just seeing how important everything was to us, and seeing kind of the devastation of the campus as a whole, like makes you realize how much we all love the place.
You take 4 classes a term at Brown or 5?
4 is normal. 4 will get you straight through, no problem. Some people may take 5 if they want to. I don't, like I said, have a lot of other commitments, but some people will take 5 if they want to. That's not as common. It's either 4 or 5, and you can't take more than 5.
What are you going to do this summer?
Luckily, I am very lucky to have an internship with a lawyer from Providence. He's a Brown alum. I contacted him through the Brown Alumni Connections, which is an incredible resource. There's so many Brown alumni willing to help anyone that contacts them.
Wow.
So I got this internship and I'm writing articles for his website. Also, another thing that Brown has developed for us is the Brown Connect Summer Institute. So for the past 3 weeks, today's actually the last day that we're going to do it. For the past 3 weeks, we've had daily lectures from experts, professionals in their fields, all from Brown in some way. Either they're a Brown alum or they're the parent of a student. And these past 3 weeks, I've met David Diggs from Hamilton, another musical theater person who I love. Miss America 2017, I met her. She goes to Georgetown Law School. Now we're in touch because I also want to go to law school. CEOs, just entrepreneurs from any field you could possibly think of. We've been able to talk to them, and they created this for us just this summer. It was the first time they're doing it to kind of supplement or replace internships that may have been lost due to the pandemic. And they wanted us to still get some sort of professional experience or some sort of just advice from professionals and exposure to fields that we might be interested in. And it has been so effective. So I just appreciate how Brown threw that together, the willingness of all of these professionals willing to just come and speak to us on Zoom. It's been incredible, and I'm very lucky to have been able to be a part of it. So that's another thing I'm doing this summer.
Brown's president spoke to the New York Times, and she's a big advocate for the campuses reopening. I know the university has not made a decision as to how they will reopen, but let's thinking positive, what additional a junior year in college is really pivotal. A lot of people go abroad. Some people do like a study away, like in Washington or New York. Is there something, let's say, thinking positive, you come back to campus in the fall, you're definitely back to campus in the spring. What new experiences are you going to have your junior year?
So thinking about my 4-year plan at college, my dream was to study abroad my junior spring. I was actively planning to go to Chile. Honestly, even if we are on campus, I may not go just because I'm not sure if I'm comfortable traveling internationally for the time being. But definitely that was an option for me. I do speak Spanish, and I would be able to take political science classes there. I was planning on getting back into dancing and the band, just getting back into all my extracurriculars in full force, doing more musicals, just everything. I would just want to keep up with everything.
The courses, if you did go abroad, would they be offered through Brown or a university in Spain or another country?
Yeah, so I
Chile,
would
I'm sorry.
take, yeah, Chile. I had already looked at the classes that I wanted to take. There are 3 universities connected with Brown through the program. It's called CASA, which is Consortium of Academic Studies Abroad. And so you can take classes at the University of Santiago, the Catholic University in Chile, and another one the name is escaping me. But there are 3 universities that you can take classes at if you're going through the CASA program.
Will those classes be taught in Spanish or in, so you have to be very fluent?
Yeah, you have to have surpassed a certain level of Spanish. I've taken the classes that I need, and you have to have one of your professors write a letter of recommendation, stating your proficiency or advocating for you. Yeah.
Now, in those studies abroad, would you be living on the campus of the university you choose, or would you be living with a host family?
With CASA, I know that it's with host families.
And have your friends at Brown told you anything about the difference between living with a host family and living on campus? Have they talked about that at all?
No, I haven't talked too much about that. I went to one informational meeting before we left campus about the experiences of people who studied abroad in Chile. And they all loved living with a family because it just, it offers you a sense of home. But honestly, I don't know as much about it because I don't know if I'm studying abroad.
Okay. What would you like to do after you graduate? Would you like to go right into law school or take some time off to do something?
Yeah, I know for sure that I want to take at least a year or 2 off. I have, sorry, I have one friend who just graduated, and he did the same concentration that I did, the American politics track of the political science concentration, and he's working as a paralegal now. I would love to do something like that. I would love to graduate and then work at a law firm before actually going to law school.
Is there a certain type of law that seems to interest you?
Yes, I am obsessed with the Constitution. I want to be a constitutional lawyer. I want to be an appellate attorney. Um, I want to be the person that when someone says this ruling is unconstitutional, I want to be the one to advocate for them and argue to the higher courts about about the Constitution. Yeah. I'm very, very passionate about that, and I could go on all day about it. But
Do you think, because you've had some good professors you like, do you think you might become like a constitutional scholar or a judge at some point, or you just want to let the process evolve?
I don't know. I know I want to be. I know for sure I want to be an appellate attorney. That's for sure. I mean, you for constitutional lawyers, I mean, you could go to the Supreme Court. Like that's an option, but that's a very minimal chance of happening. Anyway, yeah, right now I know I want to be an appellate attorney, and that's what I'm looking at right now.
Do you think, having done acting and musicals, performing in front of people, do you believe that will also help you be a good attorney?
Yes, I do. I love public speaking. I'm very good at it. Um, I'm not worried about that aspect of being a lawyer.
Or if you had the time, if you could somehow come out with a 25th or a 26th hour in a day, are there debate societies at Brown, things where people argue public issues, take both sides of them, or bring in speakers who know those issues really well?
Yeah, there's the Brown Debate Club and there's the Model UN. I'm not a part of those just because, yeah, my musical theater passions are quite strong. Um, but yeah, they definitely have those. And they also have amazing lecturers come to campus all the time. Last year, I met Theresa May. Like, what?
Wow.
Um, and Joe Biden, I also saw him. He came. We just have speakers come all the time.
Is the political climate at Brown varied, or does it lean one way or another?
Definitely leans left, for sure. There's no getting around that. Um, it's pretty unequivocally liberal.
Would a conservative Republican student, not undergrad student, would that person be very uncomfortable on campus, or would they be as welcome on campus as anyone else?
That's a tough question. I know that as a Catholic, even as just being Catholic, that I can't really. I I know that's an unspoken rule for me not to share some of my views regarding Catholicism out loud, just because they would not be received well. And yeah, that's one thing about Brown. Like it is very left leaning, and it is assumed that people are left leaning. There's a Republican club that I know about. I'm not a part of it, but it exists. So if a conservative Republican wanted to be in it, they could. There's also a no labels club at Brown, um, which is also a political organization where they have just people from all sides or all parts of the spectrum come and discuss. Um, yeah, but thinking if of a like far right conservative Republican, I would be shocked to see that person, and they probably would not be the person like shouting their views on the main green.
Now, I'm hoping there'll be a lot of people listening to this interview. What would you tell them when they're about to apply to college? How should they treat the essays for Brown? How should they approach them? um, to give the people in the admissions office a fair assessment, an opportunity to assess them fairly?
Okay, great question. The supplemental essays at Brown, a big thing is to mention the open curriculum, mention that you know what it is, and say why you need it, why Brown is the only place where you're going to be able to fulfill your academic goals. What about the open curriculum is just so important to you? For me, I knew that I just had so many interests, I had to have the space to explore them. And the admissions office could see that through my extracurriculars. I just had done so many different things in high school. Um, and I knew I needed to just expand my horizons, and Brown was the best place for me to do that. So for people that are applying to Brown, really show that you have a passion for learning, a passion for trying new things, that you have a lot of different interests that you're willing to explore, and that the open curriculum is important to you. That's because that's, a main part of Brown.
Did Brown invite you to do an alumni interview?
Yes, I did. That was awesome. Yes, so there was a woman who actually teaches at University of North Carolina at Charlotte. So I met with her, and she was a Brown alum, and she interviewed me. She asked about the open curriculum. But I think that the interview was one of the stronger parts of my application as a whole, just because I knew what I loved about Brown. I just knew.
Suppose sometimes you read in the news about people who apply to each and every Ivy. Now, you had the alumni interview with Brown, you did the essays. There may be someone else who applied to Brown who also applied to Columbia, which is like the total opposite. Over half of the courses are required. There are some choices and things you must take. Now, let's say that person did the alumni interview with Brown, as you did, and they did an interview with a Columbia alumnus. Would they have a very difficult time getting through both interviews?
I think that Columbia and Brown are so different. Columbia is known to be a lot more of a competitive environment. Brown is known to be more collaborative. So it depends on the person and why they like both. I really wouldn't be able to answer that question, just because Brown is a unique Ivy, and it's seen in a certain light by the others. But I would ask myself, okay, what do I like about Columbia and what do I like about Brown? And just highlight those, because they're very different schools. So that would be an interesting conversation.
Do you think you would have been equally happy at Columbia if that had been your choice?
No.
Okay.
I do not thrive in overly competitive environments where it's like, where in an academic setting, where people are just worried about the grade and getting the top grade and like screwing over everyone else to get that top grade. Like that just doesn't really, that's not helping me learn. Also, Columbia is right in New York City, which I wasn't interested in doing for undergrad. Brown is in Providence. It's not New York City. It's a city, but it's not New York City.
Tell
I
me
am
more
thinking
about the city. Tell me more about the city
Oh,
of Providence.
yeah, sure. Providence. So Brown is on top of what's called College Hill. It's where both RISD, the Rhode Island School of Design, and Brown reside. It's literally on top of a hill. And so that makes us inside our own little college bubble. If you're on top of the hill, if you're on College Hill, you're on Brown's campus or RISD's campus or both, because they intersect. It's not an enclosed campus though. It is a public campus. So there's public streets going through, and Thayer Street. Thayer Street goes right through campus. And it is a street of shops, restaurants, the like. you wouldn't want to find yourself walking alone on Thayer Street at 2 a.m. because it is a public area. There are different people there. Um, so yeah, definitely a public campus. I feel fine. I feel fine during the day, but when it's nighttime, I like to use the shuttles, the brown designated shuttles that you can only get onto if you have your ID.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, and then down the hill, if you walk down the hill, that's where you get to Federal Hill, where all the Italian restaurants are. It's where you can get to the mall. Um, and there's the river. There's different things in Providence, if you search for them.
Is there a favorite food that you have in Providence?
Yes, my favorite restaurant of all time in Providence is this restaurant called Pastiche. It's a little cafe on Federal Hill. Um, it has the best desserts you could ever imagine: fruit tarts, pies, cake,
Mm.
everything.
So you're very, obviously very happy with your being at Brown and the experiences you had, but you're unique. Every person who goes to Brown with you is also unique.
Yeah.
For people who are still in high school thinking about college, who would be happiest at Brown?
Someone who is willing to try new things. If you're so set in every single thing you want to do and you don't want to get out of that, then maybe you want to go to a more specialized school like MIT if you're just so set. Um, but at Brown, you just, it is so easy to thrive if you are willing to try new things and if you're willing to go out of your way and try something you've never tried before, you never thought about before. Um, Someone who'd be happy at Brown is someone who is open-minded, um, friendly, someone who's friendly. We do not take to people who are really closed off and snarky that well. People at Brown are the type of people who say hi to you on the street while you're walking to class. Even though it's in the Northeast, not a common Northeastern trait. That's what it's like at Brown. Um, People are friendly, genuinely. They're willing to help you. If you're walking and you're like, wait, I'm a freshman and I'm lost, you just ask anybody, literally, and they'll tell you, any student. um, so someone who's open-minded, friendly, um, and who's just willing to go out of their comfort zone.
Joy, thank you for spending this time with me. I can see that you're going to be a great attorney one day, and this has been a privilege. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stuart. This was really fun.